holiday season right now. What is the best thing to get for one of your friends that's a horse player? How about a daily racing form gift card? Because they can get whatever they want there. Past performances for any of the tracks that they're going to play, clocker reports, betting strategies, whatever they need to help themselves when they're handicapping. You're going to be able to provide that for them with the daily racing form gift card. Maybe you want some swag. You can check out some of the DRF swag there as well. I'm here to be talking some Turfway Park with my good friend, Barry Spears, the sniper. Barry, these races on Saturday we're going to look at, they are good. What Turfway did, they moved a few of their stakes races from different days and made one really big day. And it's a good weekend because there's not all that much else going on this week as far as like big stakes weekends. So pretty smart. I think a lot of people are probably going to be doing what you and I are doing, diving into this all stakes pick 4 on Saturday at Turfway. Races 4 through 7. It's a 14. The takeouts there are the takeout there is 14% takeout on the pick 4s.
Yeah, that was surprising when you told me that earlier, and it makes it that more enticing, and it makes you want to throw a little bit more into it because when you win, you're going to get some more back.
So, got to give Turfway some love just overall over the last couple of years because they have improved their product a ton, and the handle goes way up, the field sizes go way up, the purse structure is way up, the broadcast quality is way up. This is different than 5 or 6 years ago. Way different.
Yeah. Yeah, with the purse has stepped up, everything else has stepped up. The horses even at the lowest levels are, are,
Mm-hmm.
are way better than they used to be. And you get a lot of chaos in these races. You get a lot of turf horses trying it for the first time, and we get a mixed bag, and it makes for really, really good racing, especially with the full fields. And it's kind of fire away.
So we're going to get into races 4 through 7 on Saturday, Turfway. You want to follow along with us, you can do so. And let's see if we can make you some money there. So yeah, 50. Shout out to Chris Larmy, who does the Sport of Kings podcast. He also hosts another podcast, the betting with the best. Yeah,
Yeah,
bet with the best. Bet with the
yes.
best and the Sport of Kings. I was on Sport of Kings a few weeks ago. I've been on a couple times with them, but he does a really good job of letting everybody know on big weekends like this, like what are some of the takeouts. And so that's where I saw when he posted that 14% takeout, 53 horses entered in the 4 races that you and I are going to talk about. So
Oof.
I know who Breezy's playing in race number 4. She's just gonna stop at the 1 right here at Breezing Along, Barry. But we'll start with you, my friend. We go to the My Charmer. This is the first of our $250,000 stakes races. So there'll be 4 in a row, low takeout, big fields. And while these aren't graded stakes races, because the purses are 250,000, because it's sort of the time of the year where there's not a whole lot of the big races happening right now. You've got Santa Anita in a couple weeks. They'll open up. You got the Pegasus in a few weeks. Gulfstream has a couple next weekend. If these horses have any synthetic form or they're in the area, this is a really good opportunity to go take a swing for some big money. A lot of these turf horses in here. So where do you want to start, my friend?
Yeah, this race kind of surprised me because there really isn't too much speed in here. And I think the forwardly placed horses um, will probably have a better shot at winning this race, meaning the 2 top choices, Dana's Beauty, the
Yeah,
4, and Ghostly Gal. I don't really see too much after that because they should really, really control the race, and almost, I would think, try to make it into a match race because they don't really have to go too fast early to get out ahead of this
and
field, and that seems to be, what, at least on paper, what this race is going to unfold like.
and the only let's see what time form US sings. The thing is, like you're saying, there's not that much early speed. If they do go fast early, like the 2, who's not going to be that big of a price, is a very logical off the pace horse in a spot like this. I just thought this was probably the most formful of the races in the pick 4. Like that, I just couldn't really get around those, like you're saying. And look, Timeform US kind of has it just like we thought. No early speed. they've got the 4 and the 7 finishing second and third. They've got the 2 just kind of based on class, I think, winning the race. And those are the 3 choices. And the 4 and the 2 both have more tactical speed. They seem like they have, the Dana's Beauty, the 7, Ghostly Gal, they have more tactical speed. They've shown different ways they can win. They're a little more versatile. If for some reason they go at each other, or maybe 1 or 2 others get aggressive, a horse like the 2 could be really tough to hold off. We're always looking for prices. Maybe a horse like Keynesy, I would throw in like tries and supers, or if you were really spreading out, just for some of the reasons that we're saying from the way outside, is this a horse that they just send really hard, try to get to the front, and maybe the horse can hold on for a share if not getting pushed all that much?
Yeah, I would think Take a Stand might be another horse that looks on the improve,
Just
and
doesn't
probably
win a whole lot.
deserves. Yeah, it probably deserves a shot in this race.
Agree.
But again, one of the
Trip.
maybe 4 horses that's going to get bet too.
Yeah.
It's really tough to get around these, like
The
top 3 or
logicals
4 here
in this race, I thought, because even in the different ways the race could shape up, it just seems like, you've got Dana's Beauty and the 7, Ghostly Gal. They're not going to battle with each other, I don't think. These horses would be fine just sitting off one another. If one of them got aggressive and went, like, these aren't need the lead speed horses. These are just horses who are some of the more naturally quick in a race where there's not a bunch of speed. So sure, someone's going to go crazy. We'll sit second or third. And then they're still in a really good spot. Maybe a couple others go crazy. Like we said, then it brings the 2 Forever Dixie in, who's really faced good company up at Woodbine. I mean, you start going through the horses that she's faced, but she just doesn't have any early speed, like, at all. She's going to be way behind. She lost to Full Count Felicia, you see, a few starts back, who then came back and won the Grade 1 EP Taylor. And when Full Count Felicia wins, horses like Forever Dixie have no chance, because that means it was a wire-to-wire job, a gate-to-wire job, usually by Felicia. So, I wish we could get a little more creative in this one, but I thought both the 4 and the 7 looked like they would be really, really nice if either one of them were to float up for some reason. Like Ghostly Gal maybe floats up, who knows, but they both feel like they'll sit great trips in here. And then we gave you a price or 2 of maybe some others to the outside. Keynesy, Barry mentioned the 8, Take a Stand. Let's move along, my friend, to race number 5. 4 stakes races in a row, all of them $250,000 up for grabs, and a low takeout pick 4 over at Turfway Park. This is a 6 furlong synthetic sprint, and it's for the fillies and mares 3-year-olds and up. There's some of the logical horses in here that'll take some money. Sunday Shoes will probably take a little bit of money, but Uppercase is in very nice form right now. Nicest Pie was really good on the synthetic and flipped over and has been on turf 3 of the last 4, but now third start off the bench. Major player there. The one line I thought was probably a little bit off, Love Appeals. We'll try synthetic for the first time. Really nice turf sprinter. I would be surprised if Love to Shop is 15-1. This was the one that kind of I was like, I know she runs second a lot. She's run second 4 times in a row, but she's never missed the board. She has had a couple tough trips in those races. In her last 3, one of them, she lost to A Game. She was in front of Beauty of the Sea, and Beauty of the Sea is 10-1, and she's 15. Then against Stormcast just went gate to wire, so she couldn't run her down. But she always shows up. She's really nice. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she will be a big price, Barry, but I started there with her because this was one of those lines that kind of jumped out to me. If she's above double digits, I think that's value on her. I thought she'd be more like an 8-1, 8-1 shot in here. Not like favored, but, in below 10-1, between 5 and 10-1. So she's going to be on my radar and absolutely a horse I use because I don't. There is a little hang in there. But I do think that she does show up and fire each and every time. And I'm not quite as worried about the wide post for a horse cutting back like this a little bit, who can probably go a little bit wider in here and still have some finish. So Machado's had a fun couple months. Last 2 months or so, he's been in the
Oh
news
man,
quite
he's
quite a
been a
bit.
roller
But
coaster ride. This
which
guy.
is funny because, like I said, in the news because it's been like big wins and then some like head scratchers, like up and down. So that's one that I want to mention. But how about for you? Who are some of the horses you want on your pick for?
One of them, the horses in this race that caught my eye because I had kind of like a bad beat with this horse last year at Turfway, and it's Awesome Treat.
Oh,
This horse
this
seems to
I'm using.
show up. He seems to show up at the perfect time. Always, usually a big price, and runs hard, especially in kind of races like this. If you can kind of excuse the Kentucky Downs effort, this horse is right there with everybody else.
So
Um,
put a line through that Kentucky race. Look, the Keeneland Turf Sprint and like the Keeneland Turf Sprint.
the last two races, really, the
Yeah,
dirt race and that one, kind of out of her element. I mean, she really didn't get a good start. Was wide kind of the whole way, and just never really got into it.
and
So I
she's
can
best on synthetic
I
of all
that's
surfaces.
right. That's what I was going to say. She does have a little bit of second-itis on that, but still, I mean, she fits very well here, and,
Yep,
and I'd give her a good shot at a big price. I mean,
completely agree.
a lot of these horses look the same, especially on running style and on paper. If this horse gets positioning, look out, especially at a price.
Totally agree. I think I had her third, fourth in a race where I'm going to be using some prices. This is one of those races where I'm looking for the fun prices. I'm throwing in the 8 BG Warrior, another horse who just likes the synthetic, and versions of this race where this horse is gone.
Might get a 4-1 favorite here. I mean,
Absolutely.
or closer to that, like a 7-2 ish
Yep.
type favorite. Nicest Pie is a decent horse, but doesn't look any better or worse than anybody else.
And on speed figures, she was a 3-year-old. She's been a 3-year-old, and a lot of the time she's faced just 3-year-olds. She
Mm-hmm.
faced older 2 starts back in the Presque Isle Masters in that race. Was okay there, but she has to step up. She has to improve. So I wouldn't take a really short price on her in a race where we've actually seen other horses run faster than her so far. They're just
Right.
a little like their overall body of work is a little more spotty, but she's not in the most perfect form right now either.
No, I don't think any of them are. You got layoffs.
And that's why we're looking
And
for
all
the
that.
prices in this
Right.
race because
Exactly.
like uppercase is the horse to beat, I'd say, because this is a horse in good form, but even this one, right?
Well, there's a lot
Three
of
of the
horses that
last
have that same running style.
right?
And
And the seconditis, like we talked about, 3 of the last 5 races for this horse finished second. So do you want to take too short of a price on a horse like this who's really consistent, can sit close, but like I I prefer Love the Shop, who's also finishing second, but it might be a way bigger price. The horse that you mentioned, the 10, Awesome Treat, who's going to be a way bigger price. I just got into the 8 a little bit. And what's nice about BG Warrior, you know where she's going to be? She's going to be up front. They're going to let her loose. Likes Turfway. She's going to be flying early on. She'll just go as fast as she can, as far as she can. We saw her win, two in a row last meet at Turfway, back-to-back stakes races, and she won at 6.5 and at 6. So these horses all make sense. We talked about the 6 a little. And what do we do with 11? What do we do with the horse like this, Barry? First time on the synthetic, Love Appeals, who's been a pretty good turf sprinter for Clement. I mean, this is a horse who's won 3 of the last 5, hasn't really run bad races, might get hooked a little bit wide with that running style, though. But I don't really have knocks on her overall form. It's just, how sure are you that she's going to take right to the synthetic like she has with the turf? Because you better be. Otherwise, it's a pretty competitive race. It's a big field. She may not get a great trip. It's not going to be easy for her in here.
no, not by any means. This running style where she's more of a stalker type, I don't particularly like on synthetic, and especially at Turfway.
And she's one going a little longer, but I agree. Like, I don't know if she's fast, like that fast to kind of get herself into the position. Maybe I just feel like she's going to get hooked wide here a little bit. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
and,
know.
and 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 being that wide and having that kind of running style doesn't seem like the ideal thing.
No,
Stalking from that position way outside like that and hopefully kind of getting a spot is not very ideal, especially when it might get a little hot up front. Other horses behind this one would probably kind of launch once they round the far turn there, and I see that move a lot, especially because the middle half of the racetrack seems to be the best part most of the time. So you see the jockeys kind of swing their horses out a little bit off the turn to kind of get off the rail and then get to the best part of the track. And they tend to do that. It's going to be hard to do that from a stalking position because you're going to be
yeah,
kind of chasing the leaders.
yeah.
So I would want personally a horse that's going to probably close later than what Love Appeals will get first run.
Looks like a fun price race. I mentioned the 12 Love to Shop has a little versatility from the outside. I think we'll probably try to drop back, make that one late run, like you were just saying. Barry pointed out the 10 has some real nice races to go back to, even right here at Turfway Park, in particular on the synthetic. The 8 was also another fun price that you want to include because there may be versions of this race where this filly is the fastest. I think there are one or two others down towards the inside that really have to go, but she's the quickest. Can she clear them? Again, how many versions of this race does that happen? If she's around 10-1, I think it's worth including her there. So, yeah, this race looks a lot more appealing just to search for some prices. And then whatever you want to do with some of the more logical horses like, Uppercase, horses like Nicest Pie, horses like the 11 who we just mentioned, Love Appeals. You won't be able to use them all. You'll kind of have to take a stand against a couple of them. We gave you our thoughts. Best of luck in the 5th, the Holiday Inaugural Synthetic Championship. Let's move.
It's a mouthful.
I know. There we go. We move to the Bayou, the Prairie Bayou. This one is a mile and a 16th. This is sort of the older, kind of classic division, going a little bit longer for the boys. Hush of a Storm is a horse who I've become a pretty big fan of over the last couple of years. Really runs well in the synthetic, and even now has been good on the turf, and it's a nice New York bred, really honest horse. Exalted was out here in Southern California, got really good last year. Hasn't been able to get back to that same form. Maybe rounding back into it based on speed figures, getting a little bit closer. We've talked about Money Supply, who ran some big races, a couple at Fairgrounds, graded stakes winner over there. Stiletto Boy, the old man, Stiletto Boy, who ran some big ones back in the day, including the grade 1 Santa Anita handicap, but just doesn't feel like he has shown himself in quite some time. Dresden Rose in great form. Wadsworth, second start off the bench player here. Paros is doing what Mike Maker does, claiming these horses and then stepping them up, moving them up the class ranks. Just a lot of different directions you can go in this one, Barry. And it's not a race that has that much early speed in it either. A couple speed horses, so it could be fair, and a couple trackers, but just not a bunch that will be lining all up. How do you see this thing shaping up?
I mean, Hush of a Storm, I really like this horse in this race.
My top
Should
pick,
get an
too.
excellent trip. And this horse has races to go back to, and including this one last year. Didn't run all that poorly, and stepped up actually into that kind of company. I don't anticipate this horse is going to take a step backwards. He's actually coming into the race a little bit better than last year. And I think this horse has improved, and being the other Brad Cox in this situation might be the way to go.
Let's do a horse named Spirit of St. Louis, who's a really nice
Very nice horse.
New York bred also, who they took a shot with in grade 1 company and wasn't that far behind Carl Spackler and More Than Looks, Breeders' Cup winner. I've been a big fan of his, Barry. It was actually trying to figure out when. I think there were a couple races that he was in. You know what? I think it was going into because I played him in the Battaglia when he won, And I was looking at him as just this massive price going into the Bluegrass. It's just like, this horse is a little bit better. Then he went up to Woodbine, and he was supposed to run in a race at Woodbine and ended up scratching and didn't run there. And it was when we were talking about the Woodbine races last year a lot more, when I was looking at the Woodbine stuff every day. And I just got like into one of those deep dives where you went through all of his form. You're watching him. He was winning these races way back at Turfway in 2021. Like in races he shouldn't have been winning, against slow paces and just running well late. And when he didn't win, he would always show up and run well. And he just loves Turfway. He's really good on the synthetic, and he's become a nice horse. The Cox Barn's been firing for so long now too. I think it's just a really good spot for him. We're both pretty high on Hush of a Storm here.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of speed in here, especially from the outside. Starting from the 12 and going in, there's quite a bit of speed. Dresden Rowe has a lot of speed, and I think Money Supply might be just classier than most of these horses. Now the gamble is whether or not you think Money Supply is going to take to the synthetic and run decent. I think that's a good possibility. And the race really sets up well for this horse. 6-1, very, very fair price. If you can get that price or higher, which is possible, Money Supply might be the goods here.
You pointed out Dresden Rowe a moment ago. He's super logical, and he can sit a little bit too. A mile and an eighth. He's gone the last couple times, and his overall body of work, he just doesn't have very many bad races. So I don't have many knocks on him. Just looking for a little bit bigger prices as we went to the one in here to start. And then right next door, Wadworth is also very logical. Horse who had a really long layoff to deal with, came back, just missed coming off the long layoff. And the race wasn't all that far from the races he was running before the layoff. So he could absolutely take a step forward and run a career best here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really sets up for this horse.
It does. Yeah. So I have no problem with them. They're both logical. I thought the 6 and the 7, along with the one who you mentioned, who we both mentioned, the 9's in nice form. I probably would want more than this horse is going to be. He's won 4 in a row though. He's in really nice form. But the same thing though, all on turf, right? He doesn't have any of those synthetic races to go back to that we can say, oh yeah, last year he had 2 really good synthetic tries. So he's going to have to, this is a class test as well as a synthetic test for him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful Justice will probably be in the pace a little bit too. And then Midnight West, of the speed horses, this is the one I would use underneath at least, because I do think this horse is pretty quick. And with the outside draw, he really has to go. He lost to a horse last time named Bishop's Bay. This is a nice horse. He was second in the Peter Pan. And after a couple races, he was one of Brad Cox's best 2-year-olds a few years back, best 3-year-olds a few years back early on. And then they just didn't really try to get points with him. They didn't really kind of push him along the way. They were just taking it real slow with him. He beat First Mission first time out of the box. And then he lost in the Peter Pan to Arcangelo. So then Two Phils. Remember how good Two Phils was at that point when he won the Ohio Derby? So maybe a fun underneath and exactas tries supers type of horse. Barry, anyone else you want to discuss in the Prairie Bayou?
No, but this is going to be a really fun race.
It is.
There's a lot of speed, a lot of closers, so it should be pretty exciting.
It just could shape up different ways. Like we just get big field, a lot of nice horses, 1 or 2 that don't break well. Then there's not as much speed, but maybe a couple from the outside want to go. Like when I talk about versions of this race, this is a race where there could be a lot of different versions of this race.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's finish things up, my man, with race number 7. We have the Holiday Cheer, like the Holiday Cheermeister from the Grinch there. Anyone who's going to have one of the Grinch triple headers coming up, let me know. I always do one of these around Christmas time. Get you all of the Grinches in a row. Let's get to the 7th. Howard Wolowitz will start here. This is really good in the Franklin Simpson, that weird grade 1 at Kentucky, which shouldn't be a grade 1. It's like they accidentally put a grade 1 on that race a few years ago and then just didn't want to change it back. But this is a nice horse. He has synthetic form. And then the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, like that's a lot to ask for him at that point.
Yeah.
He's still a 3-year-old who hadn't even faced older. So I'm not going to be hard on him for being beaten 3 lengths in that race. I think he's a logical horse to talk about. He's not a horse so I'm lining up to bet or anything, but he makes a lot of sense. I'm so glad they took a shot here with the 12. Patches O'Houlihan. A lot of these horses up at Woodbine, after their Woodbine season, they don't really get the chance to run on the synthetics all that much in places. And they'll sometimes go over to Gulfstream. Maybe they can get a couple races over there, but they don't get to run for big money. This is a good horse, man. And he gets a chance now to come and prove it against other really nice horses too, which is cool because a lot of times it's just the same sort of horses up at Woodbine that he's been facing, but Patches O'Houlihan will go quick, and because he's outside, he will make sure that this is an honest pace at least.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That horse only goes one way, and it's fast, but there's other fast horses in here.
Yeah.
I think a horse like the 2, Mustache, is really going to get an excellent trip. I like this horse quite a bit in this spot. It's pretty versatile. I know I wanted this horse to get cut back a long time ago, probably after the American Turf on Derby Day last year. I was like, man, if they cut this horse back, watch out. And the horse is learning how to rate. And I think that really culminated last time, even though the horse lost to Arrest Me Red, who's a really good horse and be very tough in this spot. I think the horse finally figured it out. And getting in this spot and probably getting in front of the 1 might make all the difference, just as tactically. Getting that spot, because I don't think the 1 is all that fast out of the gate. And being on the rail, it just doesn't seem like this horse is going to get a really good trip at all. And 5-2 or a short price on that horse just doesn't seem like the thing to do here.
Yeah, it's one thing to respect what a horse has done, but it's another to project this race. And just like, for example, even in the race on the grass, he did have a brutal trip at Saratoga in that race, but he lost to Run Carson. So just from a class standpoint, I think there are horses that are a little bit better than him, a little more experienced than him, and just a little more proven overall. The 2, I'm glad you mentioned Mustache. I want to talk a little bit about the 10, Dream Shake, a horse who used to be in the Peter Urton barn, a horse who won his career debut. Man, I remember this race. This was like one of those really buzzy races where there were a bunch of horses that look good. Look who is in here. La Professor and Bezos. These were some really highly regarded horses here at one time. Mr. Impossible was another one. And Dream Shake, who was a big price, won really impressively just out of nowhere. And so horse was always on my radar. And he tried to get some Derby points, lost to Life is Good, Rock Your World. Then they cut him back, ran a bang-up race in the Pathé Mile behind Jackie's Warrior that day. Then he sort of tailed off form a little bit and had a long layoff, changed barns, and then he resurfaced when I noticed him up back at Woodbine and went on to the synthetic, and he won nicely on the synthetic. He's only been on there a couple times, but he's a pretty versatile horse who's been good on multiple surfaces. I think he's just a quality horse, and Peter Urton knew this one before. If he's ready to rock in here, he certainly has form good enough to compete with these types of horses. So I'm going to be throwing him in my pick 4 for sure, Barry. I'm looking for some prices in here too. Like he's one that I'll be throwing in. The 2, Mustache, who you mentioned, and the 8 was probably the other one for me that I think I'll throw into One Timer, who his turf form, he's faced, he's in with Cogburn. He's never beaten all that much. He's a horse who likes to win races, and he's perfect on the synthetic. He's really quick, but he's also shown us he can pass horses if he has to, if there's some sort of trouble. So I like that versatility. And Ravelli's had an okay start to the meet at Turfway, right? I think he's won with 5 of his first 7 starts, 71% as we're looking at the DRF statistics. That'll get the job done.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah.
That's another interesting horse in here. Has that versatility that I was talking about with Mustache, and seems to be coming into this race razor sharp. So, just got to keep an eye on the board. But in pick 4, pick 5 situations, definitely using that one.
Yeah. So for all of you who are joining us here on the YouTube channel, if you can subscribe below, that will be a big help. But just a reminder, that first leg of the pick 4, race 4, we thought was probably going to be a little bit more formful. So the top choices in there, 4, 7, even 2, they're either going to be getting the advantage based on there not being much speed, or if they do, the 2's probably the one really big closer that's going to come and get them. Maybe a race where you can shorten up a little bit there and then search for some more prices in the next few races. That's how Barry and I are going to be approaching this pick 4 sequence. I mentioned the 10 Dream Shake. Barry started with the 2 in here. That's Mustache. We both thought the 8 was interesting with the one timer a little bit. And then to the outside, even Patches O'Houlihan. And then from the inside, you've got Howard Wallowitz. They're going to be the short prices. They might be a little bit vulnerable in this race for quality horses. So, Barry, buddy, talk to us about the Notorious OTB podcast, where we can find that, or anything else you want to mention.
Yeah, on the Notorious OTB, we're 2 or 3 times a week, depending on what's going on in the racing world. But we do a little handicapping, pick 5s, pick 4s, $100 budget game. So yeah, we put our little spin on it, but we have some fun, and it's all about making money playing the races.
So I believe next weekend you and I will dive in to Gulfstream, because next weekend they have Fort Lauderdale, Harlan's Holiday, the Swanee River, Sugar Swirl, the Janus. I think there are 5 stakes races there, 3 of them graded. So we'll probably head over to Gulfstream. They're actually fairgrounds with a nice day too. They have one of those kind of first days in their sets of stakes races that are going to happen. So the Untappable and the Sugar Bowl are the ones for the 2-year-olds, and then you get the older horses, Tenacious and the Richard Schur, the Gun Runner. So actually a pretty big weekend next weekend with some fun stuff at Gulfstream, Fairgrounds, and even Laurel Park, some stakes action. Barry, my friend, always appreciate you. Thanks so much for talking some Turfway. It was fun to dive into Turfway. We didn't get a chance to talk much about them the last couple of years, but we'll probably talk a little more about them now, because the way that their racing product has been, like, you can always count on the full fields over there. And that's what we want as bettors, no matter what level of racing. And because the purses are now higher, I mean, people are coming out from Southern California and running there because they're running for more money, and sometimes more often.
Yeah, and that's the thing is the dough makes all the difference, as
It does.
they say.
Yeah.
And you're getting pretty much top-notch connections. I mean, they're opting to go to Turfway in a lot of cases rather than going to somewhere like, New Orleans and Fairgrounds or Oaklawn or Gulfstream, or even staying in New York. So it's a lot of shuffling going on. But the racing is better for it because, the field sizes at Turfway have been excellent. You hardly get any races less than 10. And when you do, they're very competitive anyway.
Let's get some big prices on Saturday at Turfway. Thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out with us. Remember, when you're at the store, you're trying to figure out, oh, yeah, they like to play the races. DRF, I'll just get them $50, $100 to daily racing form. Let them set up a bunch of their past performances with anything they need. They can get a DRF t-shirt, whatever they want. They'll appreciate you. Good luck to you. Happy holidays to all of you out there. Barry and I will be back next week to talk maybe some Gulfstream Park, maybe some Fairgrounds. We'll see what it looks like there. I hope everyone has a great one. And Barry, my friend, let's crush it this weekend.
All right.